Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Define Disaster. This is Battlefield 4, and in today's weapon review, we're going to be taking a close look at the Bulldog Assault Rifle with the aim of finding out what role this weapon performs, when it is best used, how it is best used, which game modes are its strengths, as well as why some of you in the comments below, leave my last video regarding the ASVAL, prefer the Bulldog over this for the close quarter champion of TDM. As per usual for a weapon review, we're going to be starting with the stats of the Bulldog, starting of course with the damage model, having a maximum damage of 33 and a minimum damage of 21.6. We actually have a 4-shot kill, a higher damage model weapon here in our selection today. What this means is 4 bullets to kill your enemy all the way out to something like 44 meters. What this also means, thanks to its slower damage drop off and higher maximum damage when compared to something like an ASVAL, another higher damage model weapon, is that even if your enemy has the defensive upgrade, you're probably going to getting your 4-shot kill all the way out to roughly 30-31 meters, which means effectively for this weapon at all ranges you should be engaging your enemy with, you're going to down your enemy with 4 shots instead of 5. This compared with a relatively high fire rate at 700 rounds per minute. We're talking a serious amount of damage output, especially considering that 4-shot kill, which means it is of course a close quarter weapon and as such ideal for team deathmatch on most maps. Now what comes paired with this higher damage model and intense fire rate is sadly a smaller magazine size at 20 plus 1, 21 bullets in total. We once more have the smallest standardized magazine in Battlefield 4 here, which means at a rate of 700 rounds per minute, you're actually once more going to be burning through this weapon's ammunition in no time. This comes paired with a relatively lengthy reload, especially for a close quarter weapon at 2.5 seconds for the short reload, that is with 1 or more bullets left in your magazine or chamber. That's relatively long. It gets even more painful when we look at the long reload, that is with all bullets completely gone at 3.2 seconds. You could get yourself killed in between reloads here from time to time. It's happened to me, especially when trying to engage large volumes of targets. It can be difficult to manage this reload, especially when comparing to something like an ASVAL, which at 1.9 something seconds is a much faster reload, allowing you to re-engage your enemies much quicker than something like the Bulldog. When it comes to recoil, it's intense. It's a high damage model assault rifle. This with a hugely advantageous fire rate for close quarter. It's gonna come with massive recoil, and as such we have a vertical pull of 0.5 degrees and a pull to the left and right of 0.37. The kind of small bit of silver lining that we have here to talk about is that the recoil to the left and right is regular. It does not require control. It keeps itself under control. It just means that target acquisition at medium to long range becomes very difficult, and certain attachments will of course be recommended. From my point, the 0.5 degrees of vertical recoil is harsh, but it can be controlled unless you're trying to go for medium long range, of course, but this is not where this weapon shines. The last point of recoil that we should mention is its 1.75 first shot recoil multiplier, which does allow some degree of tap firing at medium range to be done relatively successful, unlike something like a FAMAS or AEK, where this is already much more difficult because of a higher first shot recoil multiplier. Moving on then to the accuracy of this weapon. At an ADS value that's not moving, aiming down sight at 0.25, it's relatively accurate, slightly less accurate than your average assault rifle. This is of course because this is a bullpup weapon design, and as such at 0.25 isn't quite as accurate. However, for practical matters, the difference here is very slim and should not really make any noticeable difference in the combat distances where the Bulldog performs relatively well. What could make a small difference though is its higher accuracy while hip firing and moving. We're talking here about a hip fire value of 3.25, marginally better than your usual 3.5. It's of course also got a slightly higher accuracy while strafing and shooting, etc, etc. It just makes the Bulldog a slightly more versatile, more mobile assault rifle when compared to a usual assault rifle. However, it can't really compete with something like a PDW, like an ASVAL, when it comes to mobility, and as such I would not recommend hip firing this weapon too much, and I would not recommend strafing with this weapon, even though it is slightly better than your average assault rifle when it comes to accuracy on the move. Now before we move on to playstyles, how to use the Bulldog most effectively and how it differs from the ASVAL in its most optimum playstyle and setup, let's quickly cover the ideal attachments, at least in my opinion, for the Bulldog. It's obviously a close quarter assault rifle. We're thus going to have a red dot sight of your choice. Personally, it's always going to be a Coyote, as you know. Accessory either nothing or the laser sight, depending on if you can turn it off in smoky situations. It's going to help you with that hip fire, make it more reliable for extreme close quarters. You may then actually be able to use it, but I would still, with the Bulldog, not recommend slapping on a laser sight to go exclusive hipfire mode and anything beyond 10 meters. Barrel attachment is a two-way thing. As per usual, it's either a compensator or a suppressor. Suppressor if you want to stay sneaky. The problem is this weapon becomes very difficult to control when putting on a suppressor, not because the suppressor makes it worse, but because the other option, a compensator, makes it a lot more usable at medium range, allowing you to hit those headshots, be much more precise on targets at medium range, which is something the AS Val, for example, couldn't do very well. Under barrel attachment, of course, is going to be the vertical grip. There's no reason to put an angled foregrip on here. Yes, the first shot recoil multiplier is there at 1.75, though it isn't too high, and in my opinion isn't going to hinder you too much from hitting your tap fire shots accurately. Much more important here is making this gun excellent at close quarter and allowing you to be a little bit more mobile, strafe while shoot. It's going to be a better advantage, and as thus I would recommend the vertical grip. So what is the ideal playstyle of the Bulldog? Well, it's close quarter, but it's also close quarter medium range. I'd say you're best using the Bulldog between 10 to 25, maybe 30 meters. And why? Because you still have all the advantages of the Bulldog at this range. You have the higher damage model, you've of course got your fire rate, and you've got relatively good accuracy. And if your recoil control is decent enough at this range, you should still be hitting your targets. Whereas at extreme close quarters, where hipfire massively decreases your time to kill, the Bulldog may let you down, say 0 to 10 meters. Of course, you can hipfire somebody down at 2 meters, but if you're at something like 10, 12, hipfire gets very difficult and very unreliable with something like a Bulldog, whereas a PDW will easily be able to down you, specifically, of course, the AS Val in an instant like that, which is why I like to play the Bulldog slightly less aggressive than I would something like a PDW in TDM. That's not to say it's not good, it's just not the best, and as such using it most effectively would be at a little bit of a further range. It's still a close quarter weapon, and it's a hell of a gun to use, and I would recommend trying it out, but also that longer reload means you may want a little bit of cover and be able to stay back and clean up the enemies coming your way instead of getting in their faces and surprising everybody. Furthermore, what adds on to this is the ideal attachment. I play the Bulldog with a compensator. As such, I am on the minimap as soon as I fire my weapon, versus a PDW, specifically of course the AS Val, which usually I would play with a suppressor, keeping off the minimap unless I've been spotted. Of course, the aim of the AS Val is to get in somebody's place and kill them before they can spot you, and such. These are very two different playstyles. One is a little bit more methodical, thoughtful. The other one is all about reaction times, flanking, getting in people's faces, and extreme close quarters. And this is why for me the AS Val is the best close quarter weapon, whereas the Bulldog is probably the more usable TDM weapon out there, especially of course because it comes with the medic class, allowing you to heal yourself. And these are the two distinctions I make between these weapons. At 9 out of 10 times I would take the Bulldog over the AS Val, but in that 1 out of 10 times where the AS Val is my choice, it is because the AS Val is significantly superior in its application. It's also a matter of mindset, playing the weapon to its strength versus its weaknesses. And this is one of the most important skills in Battlefield, knowing your weapon, knowing which weapon to pick when and why you're using it, and then play to the strength of your weapon instead of taking a weapon that plays to your own strength. This is of course all a matter of playstyle and mentality, and as such I'd love to know what you think about the Bulldog or the Bulldog versus the AS Val argument. Feel free to leave your experiences down below in the comment. As per usual, I'll be discussing with you, interested to see what you have to say, as well as future video suggestions. I'd like to just add on in the end, I'm very sorry there hasn't been videos for about 1.5 weeks now. This is because I've gone to uni, I'm now at university, I had to get stuff set up, I had to get into some kind of habit, life, learning, lectures. I don't know how many of you have been to uni, but it's quite an interesting time. There's quite a lot of things to do, and you can't always sit in front of your computer and do YouTube videos. But with that being said, I hope to slowly get back into regular content, ramp up and go strong once Battlefield 1 hits, given that my internet connection here at uni can just about manage to keep me stably playing Battlefield. But that is all yet to be seen. I'd like to at this point thank you very much for watching and hope to see you in the next Battlefield 4 video.